All right, guys, I think we should get started. For those watching the recording, this is the November ecosystem developer and governance meeting of ZRX. We encourage you guys to, for those that are watching the recording, we are seeing like hundreds of viewers over the course of the 2 weeks after posting the recording. So I think it would be also great for those that can make it to join this live. We understand it's like potentially like a good, a long commitment. Let us know if there's anything that we could do in, changing the time zones or, changing the scheduling or other details that would make it easier for you to participate. It would be great to have more attendance live. We will start as usual, having a sneak peek at the overall roadmap across the ZRX ecosystem. From a ZRX lab standpoint, we'll mostly focus on the details around V4. We have a lot of cool stuff coming directly from the ecosystem. We'll have an update from Isaac around the wallet refactoring of ZRX Portal. A couple of details about other bounties that are ongoing or just opened. And then we have the spotlight today. Craig on the call is going to walk us through ZRX Tracker and the latest features that were deployed. And then a couple of other sections just to basically close the call. I'll start with the roadmap. We actually decided to divide it into two sections, ideation and research and active development. So to kind of give a sense of the journey of basically ideas and research items that we have in the ecosystem and how they make it to the actual development pipeline. And this section, the reason why we're doing this is also to hopefully try to have a richer discussion upstream. As you can see, we have some discussions on Discord that then make it to the forum. Then they kind of tend to stay there, maybe picked up by ZRX Labs or maybe not. Actually, most of these are super interesting, actually, but they didn't end up being picked up by ZRX Labs. But it's good to make sure that to give a venue for all of you guys to bring up ideas. The forum is meant to be for that. So keep basically posting ideas there, and we'll make sure to respond from ZRX Labs and to keep the conversation going. For what concerns active development, again, we don't see a lot of stars here, and the reason is that from a ZRX Labs perspective, actually, on the top part of the roadmap, and the reason is the little cell there that you see on the first row. So around basically the import of settlement in Exchange Proxy. It's a pretty hefty task. I'll spend more time telling you more, giving you more details on where we're at, and we're making good progress on the V4, the road to V4. What has changed since last time is that now specs, as I'll tell you more about later, are getting to a stage that are enough to formulate feedback and getting a sense of what V4 is going to look like. So I encourage you guys to go into this slide and click on specs and forum. Forum will give you, the forum post is basically going to give you a more high level standpoint overview of what V4 is going to look like. And the goal is to have you guys formulate feedback and share feedback as soon as possible. The timelines that we're looking at are, in this Q4, we want to basically have it audited. So we need your feedback soon. For what concerns the lower part of the chart, we have basically some updates around bounties. As I'll say later, we have the bounty around Instant has been assigned to Joao. And then the wallet refactoring bounty that Isaac is going to tell us about was completed. So, and then there's a new one around the on-chain voting integration into the ZRX Portal. I will tell you more about it. Okay, so if you recall last time, we were kind of at the very beginning of the milestone work. Milestone 3 is about importing settlement, having all the functions from settlement and order cancellations, and also bringing in protocol fees. Well, we're at the stage where we are actively developing the code according to the specs that we have just shared. And we're getting to a stage where we are almost getting to the milestone 4. So basically, what we ended up doing is, making progress on these order formats and functions. We adapted the protocol fees for V4. There are some other things that we need to figure out for that, but most of the work has been done. And also we have obviously put a lot of importance on the gas cost of these contracts. We don't have actual numbers right now, but we're looking at basically deploying these into testnets and provide more numbers in the forum post directly as we have them. Milestone 4 basically means once the contracts are done, start building up all the stack that is above it. So changing mesh, changing ZRX API swap and meta transaction endpoints to support V4, and having also the RFQT server updated so that market makers can provide RFQ liquidity on V4. Now I'll go into the details of more technical details about V4. This is your reference for those that are watching. Please go and are interested in learning more about V4. Go into these new specs that we just released. The links are here and also here with all the specific sections. This is a new place where we are basically hosting specs. We actually really like it. It's proving to be very useful for us internally too as we move to this milestone 4, structured in a way that it has all the different sections for you to review. The ones that are mostly completed are orders and architecture. Orders will give you details of the orders that are going to be available in V4. As you can tell from the fact that I'm using plural with the word orders, we're going to have actually 2 order types, one limit order type and one RFQ order type. And those are V4 order types. And as you can imagine, this can be expanded in the future. Architecture is a nice section that gives you an idea of the architecture of all the contracts, pipelines. And then we have other sections that are being developed as we speak. The events, this will give you guys an idea of what events are being triggered and when. The functions, this is actually a section that is now empty, but most of the details are actually in the orders section right now, but we're going to port them over. Around the functions, roughly the interfaces are going to be similar to V3. There are some notable changes though. We're going to have the vanilla fill order, the vanilla fill or kill order for both of these order types. But to perform market sells and buys and aggregation with on-chain liquidity, we will basically have a new interface with a field quote transformer, and we're going to detail how to use it in the specs. We are not bringing to V4 match orders. There was simply no usage in V3, so there was no real significant reason to bring it. Same thing for batch fields. There was not a lot of usage around them, and all the suite batch fields, no froze, and other things, they are not being natively supported in V4. We're going to have the normal cancel order and the vanilla cancel order, but also batch cancels. And also we changed the functionality of the cancel order up to. For those that are familiar with this function, we are able to basically cancel orders that are beyond a specific block number indicated in the salt. One of the feedbacks we received from market makers is that they wanted to do it across specific pairs. And so right now it's simpler. You can just specify the pair you want to cancel all the orders on, and this will in batch find these orders and make them unfillable. So this is a nice introduction for market makers. Also, there's an interesting section, releases. So we are going to basically progressively deploy changes, and they will come with different flavors of events and contracts. And in this section, this is specifically useful for us at ZRX Labs, but it's potentially useful for also you, Craig, for example, to see how the events are going to change over the next few weeks. I'm going to dig deeper on the architecture and the orders. Well, this should not be kind of super new because, as you recall, Exchange Proxy is basically an architectural design that was launched around in spring this year and tested with ZRX API and Matcha. to really test this upgradable architecture that looks really like this. And now what we are doing with V4 is basically we are proposing it as the canonical entry point for ZRX. The way it works, again, it has a scaffolding type of architecture where we have the proxy that does not change. That's the beauty of it, and will allow us basically to upgrade the protocol without having to do monolithic upgrades. It has a section around features. These features are the ones that need to be audited every time we want to add them. We are basically adding as many as possible right now so that we won't have, and to bring it into the main V4 audit. But in the future, as we upgrade this, if there's need, for example, to add a new fill function or a new order type, yes, this specific piece will need to be audited, but will not require a hard migration by taker makers and meta transaction relayers, because the proxy will not change. That's the nice thing about it. As we do like specific operations on the assets, there are also, we don't need to go deep into these details, but there are like contracts that are tasked to basically have a provisional control of certain assets as these assets are being transferred. And then there are the transformers. These are in green to distinguish them from this side of the house, because they are basically Legos, if you want, like that can be, are operations in a contracts form that can be done on top of the assets. For example, one of them, the most notable of them, is the WEF wrapper and unwrapper that substitutes basically the forwarder, and this allows us to quickly iterate and add new functionalities without introducing basically security risks. And the nice thing about it is that these are permissionless and trustless. This basically allows developers to add permissionlessly new functionalities to the pipeline without requiring an audit, because there is a balance check done somewhere here. And actually, when we do fields or transforms, that makes sure that that is basically correctness in the balances of the assets. This is similar to the bridges in V3, if you want. Basically, anyone can add them. ZRX Labs will probably add them for the use cases of, for example, Matcha, but any other team can basically work on top of this. Now I'll dig deeper on the limit orders and the RFQ order. So as you can see, there are two different types. So I'll start with this one. This is the one that basically replaces the current V3 orders. It supports pretty much all features as current V3 orders. If you guys are familiar with the structures, they're pretty similar. Some names change. The biggest change is around some names of the fields change. The biggest change is around the assets supported. This is only ERC20. We decided to go that route because of product market fit mostly. V4 is upgradable. So if we see a need to introduce ERC 721, we'll be able to do it, or someone else will be able to do it. We start with ERC20 only. This is nice because it allows integrators, and also from a gas perspective, is pretty cheap to just put addresses and not having to decode assets. Is I think a nice thing from a UX, from a DevX perspective. It was kind of a nightmarish to all the time decode assets. No asset data encoding necessary. We also removed the maker fee. It was basically not used, so we decided to remove it. Taker fee was used by certain integrators for some time. 1inch actually started using it. We also removed the capability of charging fees in any arbitrary asset. That was never used. All the assets were, when taker fee was specified, all the time they were specified in the taker asset. So that's what we're going to keep. So these are the most notable changes, but then everything else is pretty much the same. And this order basically, best for if you want the most canonical and if you want the most diverse use cases of ZRX that ZRX allows. So classic limit orders experiences, also complex contract fillable liquidity, basically means when contracts are actually calling the exchange. OTC, so over-the-counter experiences, and obviously if you need to introduce taker fees, that's the order you're looking at. The new order we introduced is called RFQ order, and this is really if you want, an order that was meant to be optimized for ZRX API or RFQ flow. I mean, anyone else can use it, obviously, but it's thought about basically working very seamlessly with that order flow. What we ended up doing was basically removing a lot of fields that are gonna save a lot in gas. So ERC20 only, no taker and maker fees, no sender taker fields, but actually it checks the transaction origin of the operation by using this field called TX origin. So the use case, the way that you basically set up this TX origin depends on what your off-chain infrastructure is like. And for example, for ZRX API, there are going to be instances where transaction origin is going to be the direct taker. There are some instances when it's going to be the Flash wallet. This is in instances where there's the RFQ order will be most likely aggregated with on-chain liquidity. And then there are instances with RFQ-M, which is the flow where is the maker that sends a transaction, that this is going to be set as the maker. So it really allows for a lot of cases, but yeah, it's really specifically thought for RFQ type of orders. And yeah, as I just said, best for ZRX API RFQ. Other RFQs that are similar to ZRX API, but also simpler implementations. So implementations that don't need any setting of taker or fees or sender addresses, they can use this and fill order or fill or kill, and they'll be able to enjoy cheaper gas with this flow. Okay, what about NFTs? Or what about other exotic functions that we are removing? And maybe were not used before, but maybe there are some teams that are interested in using them. Well, it's important to note that V3 is still available, and everything basically that is not currently supported by the first V4 release is going to be supported in V4 release. It's going to be supported in the V3 current deployment. So contracts still available, not discontinued. And also ZRX API, including SRA, will have a code frozen instance for V3 orders. So it will continue working as is. NFT marketplaces will be able to continue their operations and supported. And also Mesh, we're working on Mesh to generalize it actually to support both orders at the same time. So the node operators don't need to run two different versions of the node. They will just have one node, and this node will be able to basically distribute liquidity V3 and V4. It's important to bring up again the fact that the V4 release, like as I say, as we say here, is just the first release. This means that this is a contract allows for basically upgrades that are not monolithic. The next features will not require a V5. They can require a V4.1, V4.0.1. We can basically be creative with that. But with transformers and basically the fact that there's an ERP exchange proxy in front of the pipeline, basically we can add new features permissionlessly or with an audit if it's necessary. So any team will be able to push a proposal forward for new asset types or features and follow the classic flow of zips, optional funding, obviously, for development and audit and governance both. Yeah, we believe that this infrastructure is basically built to last and be upgraded. So we shouldn't basically expect to wait another year or so to have a new release to add new features. So we're pretty happy with this new design. And we've been testing this over the last 6 months, and we were able to iterate and add a lot of features for Matcha. Please, for all of those that are interested, the integrators or soon-to-be integrators, have a look at the specs. They are linked to this forum post and share the feedback here. What you should expect is a draft zip, but at this point, the zip will be mostly about pointing to the specs and potential proposals and rationales around parameters changes. For example, there could be changes for protocol fees multipliers. The nice thing about distinguishing between limit orders and RFQ is that the idea is also that protocol fee multipliers could be different for these two order flows. So it's something that can be seen and potentially will be discussed in the zip. And other operational details will be put in the zip as well. So timing, migration guides. This time around, the migration, we expect it to be much smoother because the experience is controlled by ZRX API. It should not introduce a lot of disruption for integrators unless the integrators are using complex systems. So, but we basically have reached out to many of those. But if we missed you, please contact us on Discord or share your feedback on the forum. ETAs about external audit is December, so there's actually not a lot of time to share your feedback. So please do that before the next governance call. And once we have completed this external audit, we're looking at, if everything goes well and we address all the feedbacks from the audit, we're looking at a governance vote for January. So next item, these are updates from the ecosystem. So I will stop talking and actually pass the mic to Isaac, who should be in the call, who has completed this bounty around the refactoring of the wallets for ZRX Portal. It has been pushed to production a couple of weeks ago. So first of all, I want to congratulate Isaac for the amazing work and thank him. I think this is actually an important milestone for ZRX because it's basically one of the first times where we actually formalize the flow of a ZRX ecosystem has like ecosystem development fund pool that are being used to fund work on the communal assets. And this is basically the first example of that.
So I'm Isaac, by the way. I'm in Nigeria. I came across the ZRX bounty on Gitcoin and I applied and I got approved to work on it. Took me quite some days to get a hold of the project and then started working on it. The idea of the whole thing is just to allow more users to use ZRX staking pool. To use the ZRX staking pool with their devices. So initially, users were just using their wallet connect, their Coinbase wallets and the MetaMask to log in. But with the Wallet Connect integration now, it allows variety of them. Even users with trust wallets can use the app, and agents and IM tokens, they can all use the app, and everything works seamless. If you want to use it, you can just go to the ZRX link and you connect your wallet. Right now on my incognito browser, I don't have MetaMask, so I'm going to use IM token to connect with Wallet Connect right now. So with this, you can still do the normal things you used to do on. Can still do the normal things you used to do within the app. I'll go to my accounts. I have some ZRX stakes that I have not withdrawn. Yeah, okay, I have them here. And then if I still have some more, I can still stake them. I can go to the governance and there's a vote that I need to vote on. I can vote. I can go to earn more liquidity by adding ZRX to the pool. Right now, I don't have. If I need, I go to Matcha and then I get some assets and then come back to use it. So basically, with this feature, users can use lots of wallets on the app. So yeah, that is the idea. And thanks for allowing me um, do the projects or do the task on ZRX. Looking forward to doing more bounties with ZRX in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, this is great. I was actually checking. Let me just project real quick. I was actually checking. It was just launched on production, so it's probably going to take some time to actually go up. But on Google Analytics, I was looking at the wallets being used. I'm not sure how we track it. By the way, we can see that offline, but I'm seeing already, Trust Wallets now being able to log in on iOS, which was something that they were not able to do. So I'm pretty sure they're using the Wallet Connect flow that you just showed us. And there are also other instances that I see here on Wallet Connect directly. This is potentially, directly natively on mobile. So this is a great flow that didn't exist before. So just wanted to say that this is, we're seeing people using this flow, and thanks again for working on this. I just have a quick update on the other two bounties that we have. There's one that was assigned, as you recall from the last governance call. We assigned the instant revamp to Joao. He was just able to get started in the last week or so, because we at ZRX Labs had to move the package from monorepo into separate repo. So that's the update there. So thanks, Joao, for working on this. Excited to see what you come up with. And this is a new bounty that was opened around 10 days ago. It's accepting applications. We'll probably close. We will probably assign it in a week or so. I'm meeting with a few applicants as we speak. The reason why I prefer to have a sort of a introduction call with the applicants is the fact that this requires a little bit more degree of autonomy. It's a slightly less scoped bounty, but the gist of it is that basically we are thinking about bringing on-chain binding governance to the basically protocol updates system. This was something that was always in the roadmap of governance. As you know, right now, the votes are basically handled directly via signatures of wallets, but it's pretty much centralized service. But we always wanted to bring it to an on-chain binding governance system. And while we are researching this on a smart contracts level, we are thinking about how can we integrate it into our own UIs. And this is the context of the bounty. Basically, we need somebody to come and help us integrate on-chain governance systems such as compounds or similar into the UI. Rough timelines for that end of year. That's what we are looking at, so that by Q1 next year, as we look at the implementation of the contracts, we're basically able to glue these things together. So if you're interested, this is mostly front end and a little bit of Web3 work, mostly on pulling data from systems. So it's querying, if you want, from the blockchain. There are a couple of flows that require validation, transaction, broadcasting, and signatures, but the website comes, as Isaac showed, the website comes with all the toolkits already. So it should not be too hard, but it's just kind of a different task from the other two. All right, with that, I think we can pass the stage to Craig. Craig is the man behind ZRX Tracker. I believe if you're familiar with the ZRX ecosystem, ZRX Tracker is basically the place to go to explore. It's basically the ZRX Explorer. You can find pretty much everything there. It's widely used by the ZRX Labs teams. It's just a pleasure to use this tool. So I want to also take the opportunity to thank you, Craig, for all the amazing work you're doing there, and looking forward to seeing from you the new updates.
Sure. Thanks, Theo. Cool. So a little bit of context around this. Theo and some of the other members of the ZRX Labs team reached out to me over probably the past few months. I think we've kind of been collaborating a bit more closely since July. And there was a couple of key features that we wanted to work on. So one of those was around tracking trader statistics a bit more accurately. So for a long time now, the active traders on ZRX Tracker, which you can see over here and through here and various other places. The figures have been fairly, for certain relayers, have been quite inaccurate, and that's to do with what we're seeing now a lot more is that taker addresses are actually contracts who are working on behalf of the end users, which doesn't work very well for actually tracking those users. So it's a fairly simple change from a UI perspective. Basically, nothing's changed in the UI. But behind the scenes, a lot of work's been done to actually rework how that data is being tracked. So there's a lot of backfilling and whatnot. But the end result is essentially that we're tracking as best as possible those end users as opposed to just the contracts. If I recall correctly, this active traders up here, the 24-hour active traders, was in sort of the low to mid hundreds, and now it's going into the thousands every day. And when you look at that over 30-day and 1 year time frames, the differences are much more dramatic. So essentially what we're doing is tracking the sender of the transactions as opposed to the taker addresses now. So if the taker is a contract, we look at who actually posted that transaction in. It's not completely foolproof, but it mostly covers all bases. So that's one thing that's been happening behind the scenes in terms of how this looks on ZRX Tracker. Nothing's changed. The bigger feature that we've been working on is this apps feature over here. Traditionally, ZRX Tracker's always monitored relayers. This was a concept from early on in ZRX Tracker's days, and it's kind of been like that for the past 3 years, I think, since we've been running now. As we've seen with networked liquidity, and especially with ZRX Mesh, the concept of a relayer is kind of fading away, and we have a lot more parties involved in a particular trade. So traditionally, a trade is going through a single exchange, right? But now we're seeing that actually an order is being submitted through a relayer. It's being broadcast over ZRX Mesh, and then it's being picked up in, say, DeFi Saver or through the MetaMask wallet, and it's being consumed there. So we wanted a way to track that activity and attribute the trades to multiple different apps in the ecosystem, so we can get a better picture of where the trading activity is happening, who's broadcasting orders, who's consuming them. So we came up with this apps feature. So there's a lot of work on the back end around an attributions engine, which I can show you a little bit through the code base. So the code for those who don't know, the code for ZRX Tracker is completely open source. So anyone that wants to go in and contribute can go in there. There's a organization on GitHub. And all the repos are in there. So there's a worker process, there's the client, which is the React application, and there's an API. They're kind of the key projects. And this worker process does a lot of the work. So this now has a new attributions engine in there. And all of the definitions for these attributions are defined in the code base. So for each app in the ZRX ecosystem, we have a definition in here. So we have ZRX, we have all the traditional relayers, and then we have a lot of the newer apps that we're seeing that are just consuming liquidity from other relayers and from ZRX API. All of those definitions are in here. So if we jumped into, say, something like what's a good one here? Let's jump into Matcha, for example. So Matcha is both a relayer and a consumer of liquidity. And the way we can attribute volume to Matcha is through the metadata that's attached to the trades. So a couple of the fields that we use are the fee recipient address. Typically that helps us to identify a relayer. and we have an affiliate address. This is a newer concept, and generally it's used to track someone that's consuming liquidity from another relayer in the ecosystem. We also see, for example, with 1inch exchange, they are tracked through their taker address. So there's a lot of fee recipients in use for any orders they're relaying. But then you can see there's lots and lots of these taker addresses, which means they're consuming liquidity from somewhere. So those are their contracts that they've used to execute ZRX orders within the 1inch ecosystem. So the definition files are pretty simple. They've got basic information about the app in there. We've got a unique identifier that's kind of used in the back end. But outside of that, it's very simple information. And then these mappings essentially tie a piece of metadata or multiple pieces of metadata to that app and associate it as a type of integrator within the ZRX ecosystem. So because these are open source, anyone can contribute to them. At the moment, there is a manual process in terms of backfilling some of the attributions. So once one of these definitions has been added, if there's an update to an existing definition, for example, 1inch exchange, they change their contracts quite often. So new contract addresses have to go in here. Or if there's a new app that comes into the ecosystem and they want to submit a new definition into here, that can be done through GitHub pull requests, and that can be accepted once it's been merged, and the automated process of push things out to production. That volume will start getting attributed automatically. There is a manual process for any trades that happened before that definition was put in place. And the kind of longer term goal is to automate that as well, so that once a new definition goes in or a change to a definition goes in, all of the trades that should be associated with that application will get associated automatically. But it's kind of step one for trying to get some of those contributions from other parties in the ecosystem. So what that translates to in the front end, it's very similar to what we saw with relayers previously, but we can kind of drill down a bit more into more detail around how the app is behaving in the ecosystem. So within here, we've got some of the traditional relayers like TokenLon, got ZRX API and Radar Relay, Bamboo Relay, and then we've also got other apps. So Matcha sits as both a relayer and a DEX aggregator. They consume orders from ZRX API. They consume orders from ZRX Mesh. We also have 1inch exchange as well, which again is a DEX aggregator, and they relay their own limit orders through ZRX. But then we also have things like MetaMask, which is just a wallet that's tapping into ZRX for liquidity. We have DeFi Saver, which is a portfolio manager which taps into ZRX to get liquidity. And one of the newer ones is Zapper, again, very similar to DeFi Saver. We're tracking a lot more now, which is great. I think it kind of shows the power of these open data platforms, in that we can build an analytics platform that exposes this to any party in the ecosystem. So if you build on top of ZRX, then at least some of the basic analytics are here for you out of the box, and we can drill down into some of the data here. So, for example, with Matcha, we can see that in the past 30 days up here, Matcha has relayed 317 trades, and they've taken liquidity for 10,000 other trades from other parties. So a lot of that for Matcha particularly is coming from ZRX API. If we look at something like DeFi Saver, we can see that they've just sourced liquidity for 700 trades, which is equating to about 9 million over there. 1-inch exchange, again, they've relayed 3 million and they've pulled liquidity for around 48 million over there. So you get similar statistics if we actually go into some of these. So DeFi Saver, for example, we can drill down a bit more. So we see the volume over here, but then we can also see some of the related apps that DeFi Saver is associated with. So, for example, we can see that they're pulling liquidity from ZRX API, they're pulling from Matcha, they're pulling from DexKit, they're pulling from Bamboo, and they're pulling from 1-inch exchange. For some of the others, we may see that the app is both relaying and consuming liquidity from another related app in the ecosystem. So this kind of helps us to see the connections between the apps and gives a better idea for app creators of where are you pushing out orders to, who's consuming these orders, or where is the liquidity for your app coming from. And we can also drill down into the actual tokens that are being traded. So we can see the volume, we can see the average size of different trades per token. We can go through here and see all the different types of tokens that are being traded on DeFi Saver. So I think it's a fairly simple concept. It's taken quite a while to kind of get our heads around and work out exactly how this is going to work best and build out the systems behind the scenes to support it. But it's ticking along nicely. I think the framework is in there for it to expand a bit further. I'm excited to kind of explore a bit more and see what more connections can be made in terms of these pages. One of the other small features that I've been working on recently is just trying to increase the level of control that users have over the interfaces. So something as simple as being able to sort through the tables in the screen in the app. Those types of toggles are moving around ZRX trackers. So here we can trade, we can filter by trades now. We can sort by trades. We can see who's the top performers, who's the lower performers for different categories, and that concept's starting to move around the app. I'm also starting to look at customizations, like being able to filter. At the moment, you can only view metrics over a specific set of time periods. I want to expand that so that people can report over custom periods. So if you want to check the volume for February, you can do that. You don't have to do that at a particular point in time. I'm starting to look at this. I think the project has kind of stabilized. We have ZRX V4 coming. From what Theo was showing, it looks like there's not too much of a divergence in terms of what how ZRX Tracker currently works, which is great. I think it looks like the data models fit into what ZRX Tracker has. So the code base is stabilizing now, and I'm starting to focus on how can I provide more ways of giving users of the app better control over viewing the data that they need to view. So yeah, that's a few of the things I've been working on recently. As I said, the code base is completely open source. You can come in here if there's particular features that you're interested in seeing. Feel free to come in, open issues. We can discuss them through the GitHub repos. And feel free to open pull requests, fixes for bugs, or other features are always encouraged. So yeah, that's what I've got.
Thanks so much, Craig. This is I don't need to tell you how excited about this release I am about this release, and I actually think something pretty cool that maybe we can integrate into this call regularly is something that I, from time to time, I tend to look. We have also the beautiful Networks Insights page, and we have the 30 days view. We usually have a call every month, so maybe we can also start the call by looking at how, from a macro level, what happened on ZRX. And I also want to end the call with a good note. Like, as you know, DEX space is like booming, and you can tell also by the fact that we need to sometimes like recall the fact that ZRX is currently powering a substantial amount of tokenized value, and it's continuing to grow. Even though the yield farming craze has started to cool off, you can see that we're still growing 20% month over month. And significant amount of traders. Now with the fix, we are able to see the amount of people that are using the protocol in a more accurate way, and trades are growing as well. So this is like pretty good to see. And this is another section that I find quite useful. All right, we are almost done. So I'll skim through the last slides real quick. So I want to conclude the call with a new section that we added here. Just some advertisement on ZRX Labs open positions. So if you know anyone or you're interested in these positions, actually, I can see that Brent added some stuff around token loan and radar. So amazing. So thanks, Brent, for adding them. Basically, we want to introduce this section to give an opportunity to all the teams building on top of ZRX to advertise their open positions here. So as you can see, we have some ZRX Labs positions. There are also token loan, IM token is hiring across different functions, and also radar is hiring too. So yeah, if you're interested and know someone amazing, here are the links, and reach out to the specific hiring managers or HRs, or apply directly on the websites. If you're interested in adding open positions to these slides next month, reach out to me or Brent on Discord. And this is just a recap of how you can be involved. This is a slide for you if you want to refer to, with all the pointers on, if you're asking yourself, how can I help with ZRX? Here are all the resources. And I'd say let's conclude the call. See you next month. Please bookmark the repo on GitHub here to know when the new upcoming session will be like. Usually it's in about 1 month time, and we will post the recording and the detailed agenda on Medium shortly after the call. And with that, I think we can conclude. All right, thanks everyone.